So, you guys want to know all the nitty gritty, juicy details about me getting locked up. Yes, that's right. Me, Michelle, your local lesbian, has been locked up a few times. I've been to jail and I've been to prison. That's right. I got a DOC number. But let's rewind it. Okay, let's rewind it. Let me take you back to when I was young and dumb. See, old me, I used to act before I thought. I never thought before I said something, did something. I was a real fucking peach, okay? Let's just start with the initial charge. I have 2 felonies. Robbery and escape. I know they sound super hardcore, but stick around for the video. Listen to everything. I promise you, it is not as bad. Did I break the law? Yes. Yes, I did, but I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. So let's continue with the story. So one day I was leaving Target. And I was with a couple of friends. And there was a purse on the ground. The woman was getting into the back of her car, reaching for something, and the people that I was with was like, Michelle, I dare you to take that purse off the ground. Now me, I was one of those assholes that was just like, well, if you dare me to do something, I'm no bitch. I'm gonna do it, like, shit, don't you dare me. I'd say it all the time. Well, they dared me. So I went and I picked the purse up off the ground. It was a leather Louis Vuitton purse. The person that was getting into their car, getting things out of the back. So I took the purse off of the ground. I didn't touch anybody. I didn't hurt anybody, nothing like that. If I did anything, it was inflict them with fear, which is still not acceptable. That is not okay. I want to stress that. I'm not saying what I did was okay, because it was not. And I start to run, and the lady starts to yell, he stole my purse. He stole my purse. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, like if I get away with this, they're going to be looking for a guy. So it's fine because I'm a girl, just stupid way of thinking. Again, I get about 2 aisles over in the parking lot, and there was a police officer there doing a routine traffic stop. And all of a sudden I hear, stop, police. And I look behind me, and there's a cop, sure as shit, running after me. So me, I'm thinking, who knows what the hell he's going to do. So I stop, dead in my tracks. I stop, put the purse on the ground, and I look behind me, and he is not stopping. That motherfucker was coming at me full force. Again, why? He thought I was a guy. When I was younger, definitely I didn't have as much curve as I do now. I got a big Judy booty on me. Didn't have all that back then, so I definitely resembled more of a male. Tackled me to the ground. Beat my ass, if you will. Kept picking me up, throwing me on the ground. I was completely covered in mud, dragging me through the mud, drags me up this hill. Once you get to the top of the hill, there's about 5 other cop cars just waiting. And I'm like, how the hell did that even happen so fast? Throw me up against the cop car, and they start patting me down, and then all of a sudden, oh. And he's like, you're a fucking female? And I'm like, yes, because I was stressed the hell out, he just manhandled the shit out of me. I go to jail. Now, I get to jail, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? This is my first time being in jail. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Like, okay, a bond, I'm gonna get a bond, right? So then I pushed a little buzzer, and I said, hey, like, officer, can you tell me what my bond is? And she said, well, I don't think you're gonna get a bond. I said, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, they're charging you with strong armed robbery. And that woman had $5,000 cash in her purse. What? I said, I didn't know that. And they're like, sure you didn't. Sure you didn't know that she had all that money. And I truly, honest to God, I had no idea. Who carries $5,000 in cash unless you are some like baller? I'm like, how the fuck do I pay 10% of nothing? If I don't have a bond. And then when they hit me, they said strong armed robbery. I said, I didn't touch anybody. I didn't hurt anybody. Like, I picked a purse up off the ground. Strong armed robbery, class B felony, got dropped down to a class C felony with just robbery. Now, looking back on it, it should have been petty theft. I should have been charged with petty theft, which was a misdemeanor, because again, I did still break the law. What I did was not okay. They charged me with robbery, class C felony, because of the amount of money that was in the purse. That's why it was a felony. Fast forward, I ended up getting bonded out of jail After I get bonded out of jail, the people that picked me up, we went straight to Olive Garden. I was completely covered in dry mud, everything, but I was just like, I need some minestrone soup and some fucking wine. Went back to court, excuse me, and then they rearrested me on felony charges. So I went back, reinstated my bond, all of the things, got back out. So I went to my initial court hearing for the felony, and I said that I needed a public defender because I didn't have money. I didn't have any kind of money, so I needed, the state to provide me with a public defender. I'd never met the guy before. All I remember is that his name was Jeff, and Jeff was a real piece of shit, okay? I'm going to start off saying that. Jeff, you're a piece of shit. He comes into the courtroom. They call me, State of Indiana versus Michelle, blah, blah, blah. Comes up, he says his thing, and then he calls me out of the courtroom. I didn't even have to say a word. I'm like going to say hi to him, and he looks at me and he says, "Do you smoke crack?" I said, "No, do you?" Well, that's what we're going to tell them. So we can put you into drug court and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, no. Like, no, I'm not okay with that because you were lying. Like, I made a mistake. Like, I'm not a drug addict. I made a mistake. He's just like, well, it's that or you're gonna go to prison. And I'm like, what the hell, So I told him, I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to claim that because, again, I'm not comfortable lying about it. I made a mistake, and I feel like people can understand. People make mistakes, right? This guy, he didn't give a shit, and honestly, I believe it was because of my appearance and because I was gay. That's just my opinion. He never said anything about it, but boy, he sure did treat me like I was a piece of shit. I get sent a plea deal. 2 years, serve 1. And I was always told from everybody that I ever talked to about it that never take the first plea deal. You never want to take the first plea deal. Send it back. The state will come back with something a little bit better. I went to his office to see the plea deal, and I was like, okay, I have a question. I was told to not take the first one. He said, I'm not getting you another one. It's this or you can take it to trial. And I'm like, but sir, and he's like, no ifs, ands, or buts. You can take this plea or we can take it to trial. So, bitch, I took it to trial. Fast forward to it's our trial date, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see all these people coming in. All of these cops, and they all have this yellow piece of paper in their hand, and I'm like, why do all these people look familiar? Well, they were all witnesses. They were all there the day that robbery took place. I was scared. I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to throw the book at me. And even rightfully so. You know what I mean? Like, was it robbery? No, it wasn't robbery. Again, I stand by it. It's petty theft. It was a petty theft. But regardless, I still inflicted that woman with fear. I didn't know what she looked like. She was an elderly woman. She was an old woman. And if somebody did that to my grandmother and they walked out of the courthouse, I'd be there. Put the mitters on them. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I put myself in their shoes, and it's just like I felt absolutely horrible for what I did, as I should. I felt like a piece of shit because I was indeed a piece of shit for doing that. I went through victim's assistance. I wrote the woman. She wrote me back. She accepted my apology. She said to forgive her because she didn't want to meet me. I get it. I totally understand that. But she appreciated me reaching out. She forgives me and wishes me the best of luck. When I go to court and everybody, says their thing, their witnesses about what they saw and whatnot, then the judge gives me the opportunity to speak. I start crying. Like the little bitch that I was, I start crying because I just told him, I said, I don't have any excuses to give to you, Your Honor. I made a mistake. I'm not a bad person. I don't do bad things. This was just very irresponsible on my part, and I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can do, but I do not think that I need to go to prison for this. I get sentenced to 2 years, serve 1. Exactly what the plea deal was. The judge didn't go any further than that because he knew that I was being sincere. John Surbeck, you the man. He's a judge. He's retired now. He's a good guy. He's a good guy in my book. I was allowed to do alternative sentencing, so of course I do home detention. So I'm sentenced to a year on home detention. If you don't know, when you go to jail, when you get sentenced to 2 years, you have to serve 1 year in jail, and then the other year is on probation. That's anything. Somebody's sentenced to 50 years, you're doing half of it. It's 2 for 1. Home detention's the exact same way. you know, so I had to serve a year on home detention, had to do all kinds of substance abuse class, all kinds of things because I had a little bit of weed in my system. So then all of a sudden I'm a drug addict and everything else. But that's just the system being the system, trying to keep you in there, wanting you to fuck up, everything like that. But I didn't fuck up at all until I got off of house arrest. I was off of house arrest for about 3 months and I started dating this girl. And we are out at a bar, extremely intoxicated, dancing the night away. And then I say that I will drive her car back to her house. So we're driving down, you know, it's 3-lane road. And all of a sudden she grabs me by my collar and pulls me to her side of the car because she wants to make out, right? Car goes with it. Boom. Hit the curb. It didn't hit any cars or anything like that, but boom, hit the curb, went up into somebody's yard. About 5 cars back, guess what? Woo! Cherries came on. There was a cop right back there, saw the whole damn thing, saw me swerving, all of it. He comes up to the car and he said, "Excuse me, miss, have you been drinking?" And I said, "Yes." Gives me a breathalyzer and he's just like blowing to this for me. So me, in my drunk mind, I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to blow soft because if I blow soft, then it's going to be a low. You know, it's going to be a low number. So I go, and he kind of looks at me and he's like, clicks a little breathalyzer thing out. And he's like, "Miss, I need you to take a deep breath in and blow hard." Take a deep breath in, blow hard. I am about 4 times over the legal limit. I don't remember the exact number. I just remember him saying you were almost 4 times over the legal limit. I was fucked up, you guys. That was so horrible for me to be drinking and driving. I go to jail. With that happening, see, I'm on probation. So when you I got a OWI, I got an operating while intoxicated because I was not pulled over drinking and driving. So that's a driving while intoxicated when you get pulled over. I was just behind the wheel. I was operating while intoxicated. So I go to jail. And I get out of jail, and then I end up getting a warrant for my arrest because I revoked my probation. I got kicked off of probation because I caught a new charge while serving time on my first charge. I had a warrant for about maybe about 2 weeks. I was scared. I didn't want to go back to jail. And I knew once I went back to jail, there was no bonding out because I had a warrant. You know, you can't bond when you have a warrant. So they're like trying to look up in my windows, everything. I'm literally on the ground, army crawling into my bathroom and laying in my bathtub because I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, they're here to get me. I called that girl that I was dating and I'm like, yo, like, cops are here. So she kept driving around. When she saw that the cops left, she's like, "Come out now." So I hurried up, grabbed some clothes, got out, and I got away. Went out to her house. And I'm like sitting there and just trying to mentally prepare myself. Now, I understand, like, you have a warrant, you shouldn't run. I know all of these things. So please in the comments, don't be like, "Why would you run, idiot?" I know that I put myself in this situation, but I needed time to think on how I needed to handle this. Me being me, if you follow me on TikTok, then you know I'm quite the jokester. And so I decided to go turn myself in. They didn't find me. I decided to go and turn myself in. So I go late at night. I went on a Monday because then I should go into court Tuesday. I went before a certain time, but I went in and I walked in and the lady's looking at me and I said, "Hi, my name's Michelle. There's a warrant for my arrest and I'm here to turn myself in." And she's like, "Well, if you just want to sit right there and we'll be right with you." And I was like, "Well, honestly, I don't think that that's going to be necessary because I've got this." And I pulled out a Monopoly get out of jail free card like a fucking idiot. She laughed. She thought it was funny. And she was like, "No, seriously, just take a seat. We'll be with you in a minute." And I said, "No, seriously, I just need you to put me in handcuffs because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to sit here without walking out that door." And she was like, "I respect that." So she came around, she put me in handcuffs and had me wait in the back area. This is my first time ever going up to the block. You know, and me, I just know when you're in lockup, you can be in lockup for 72 hours. In Allen County Jail, our lockup, you do not, no pillow, no blanket. The lights are always on. And I get it, like, it's jail. It's not supposed to be the fucking Plaza Hotel or anything like that. But it's fucking horrible. It's disgusting. If you want to know what it smells like in the Allen County Jail, just think about the smell of dirt and women's period. You don't get fresh air in there. It's all just stale, dirty air that is circulating. It's disgusting. I was so scared to go up on the block because that's going to be worse, right? That's going to be worse, and I'm going to be around all these criminals. You know, I'm not really a criminal. I'm going to be around all these hardcore criminals. You know, so I sit there 72 hours, no brushing of my teeth. They don't give you anything. No shower, no nothing like that. Fucking horrible. So then you got to go and you got to strip down and they, you know, lift your tits up. You know, you can't have an underwire on your bra. I've always wore sports bra, so I never had an issue with that. But they had to be white or gray. Couldn't have any other color. If you had another color, you had to turn it in. And then you had to get those things on commissary. Or you could get a indigent package from the chapel, you know, if you weren't able to afford to buy yourself socks, underwears, pads, things like that. And then I get sent up to the block, you know, and they sit there, bang, and buzz it. And then you walk in, you got your mat, and you got your bag that has things, and every person in the room looks over at you, and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Let me tell you this right now. Like I said, I was scared because I just didn't know who or what I was going to be around and witness, you know, because the only thing I knew about jail is things that you see on television or in the movies. When I tell you that 98.5% of the women are in there for either prostitution or drug use. That's it. You have homeless women that are prostitutes that get picked up, and they're okay with being picked up because you know why? Because they get 3 hots in a cot. They get 3 meals and a place to lay their head. And that's better than what they have on the street. So they're okay getting incarcerated. Then you have women who are drug addicts and they detox while they are incarcerated. And then they're clean and they want to stay on the right path. They want to stay clean, and then they get released. And then you know what happens? They're released out to the same people, places, and things. And it's so hard, especially being in the poverty level, to have to, you can't just change those things. And there were 2 different women throughout my time being incarcerated, me being in there, that they got released and then they had to come back. And when they came back, they were high as a kite. It would break my heart so much because it's just like they want to be better, but the system is not built to help people get better. The system is built to keep you in the system. Look at the statistics. I'm seriously, like, look that up. It's a thing. I ended up getting out of jail and I got sentenced to another 2 years, do 1 because of my OWI. And exact same thing as the original charge. That's what they sentenced me to, and I got to do it on home detention. So then I'm about 8 months into my home detention. And again, I do good. I follow the rules. I do what I'm supposed to do. I'm working. I do all the things. 8 months into home detention, the good old state of Indiana decides that alternative sentencing, which is going to be home detention, you know, things like that, halfway houses and whatnot, is no longer 2 for 1. It's day for day. So instead of me having 4 months left on house arrest, I had a year and 4 months. Now, I don't know if any of you have been on home detention before, but that shit is expensive. I mean, you're spending a couple $100s a week on that. And I'm like, no. And I would have thought that the people who were more than halfway through their sentence would at least get grandfathered into this, you know, like, okay, this, you're excluded from this, but the people from here on out that are sentenced, no, they didn't grandfather anybody in. So I decided to hire a lawyer. I hired a lawyer and I went and I talked to him and I said, listen, these are my charges. This is the time that I have. They're changing the rules. If I go sit my time out, how much time do I actually have to be there? Well, it was right under 3 months. Right under 3 months is what I would have to serve if I went and just sat my time out. And I said, that's fine, because I'm not gonna keep paying this and have to do this, because house arrest is hard. Even if you're following the rules and doing all the things that you're supposed to, it's fucking hard. I was dating at this time, it's Jax's biological mother. We are dating each other. And we had never been on an actual date with each other. We had never been able to go out anywhere, never been able to hang out with friends together, never anything like that. Well, the day that I'm going to turn myself in and say that I'm done with home detention, I want us to have a day together. I want us to be able to know what it's like to be outside of these 4 fucking walls in the house and be able to spend time with one another. You got to call home detention when you get to work and say, hey, I just got to work. This is what time I get off. So I called, hey, this is Michelle. I just got to work. I'll be getting off at 7 o'clock tonight. And they're like, all right, Michelle. Click, hang up. And then I left work. I didn't work that day. When you have on an ankle monitor, it does not show where you are unless it is GPS, which there's two different things. You have GPS monitoring and you just have a regular ankle bracelet. The ankle bracelet does not show your location. It can tell if it's outside of the bound, like the area that you are allowed to be in. It will alert them if you step outside of that area. Well, we go out to breakfast, and don't get me wrong, like, I planned on turning myself in that night, so I'm smoking all of the herb. I'm getting elevated. I know that I was going to go there and I was going to have to be, in lockup for 3 days with all these stinky fucking everything. It was horrible. So I took some Xannies because I wanted to be able to sleep. I just wanted to just have a good time for this day and then go turn myself in and just sleep. So that's what I did. Then this grown ass man who just had nothing better to do with his time, I guess, who knew my girlfriend at the time, heard that I wasn't at work like I was supposed to be. And long story short, he called the cops. So the cops come out to where I was. They're banging on the door and we're like, what the fuck? Like, how does this happen? But again, I didn't cut my anklet off. Now, when you go into home detention, you have to read and sign a pamphlet and agree to all of the rules. It says if you cut your anklet off, that is escape. That is a Class D felony. Now, if you are not where you're supposed to be, you still have your anklet on, that is unknown whereabouts, and that's a violation. It's not a new charge. You're violating in the program. The cops come in, they're like, well, you're being charged with escape. And I said, no, my anklet's still on. I didn't escape. This is a violation. And they're like, no, it's different because we came and found you. What? So I got charged with a Class D felony for escape. I go to jail, and when I'm sitting in jail, they're like, you got to go to Z block. And me, I'd always gone to the same block. And I'm like, Z block? Like, what's Z block? And people are looking at me like, girl, like, you don't even know. Z block is because I was charged with an escape. Now I am a flight risk. So my first 30 days in the Allen County jail, I was in lockdown. I was in maximum security area to where I was only allowed out of my cell for 1 hour a day. I was in my cell for 23 hours a day because of this escape charge. When I would go to court, they would wrap chains all the way around me. My legs were shackled together, my arms. I mean, I looked like Hannibal fucking Lecter walking into the courtroom. It was absurd. I didn't escape. I was like, literally was just like, no, this is unfair. I'm not going to be going about and doing house arrest for another fucking year. So I'm just going to I'm charged with escape. There's no getting out of it. So I got another felony while I was already serving time on a felony and a violation of my probation, which was another charge. I'm sitting in jail for about 4 months during this whole time because I'm like, I don't want to get out. I didn't get a bond anyways, but even if I would have had a bond, I'm just sitting here because the longer you sit in jail, the more that's time that goes towards your sentencing. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting there for about 4 months. I go into court, and then my attorney comes in, and he's just like, hey, you don't have court today. We're going to have court tomorrow, and you're going to get out of jail. She went, my family, my grandparents. Oh, my grandparents. I'm going to just say this real quick. There's one thing to piss off your parents or whoever raised you, but it's another thing to disappoint them. And when I tell you the disappointment that they had in me for doing the shit that I was doing, that's something I'll never forget it, and I will always regret putting them through all of that. Go to court the next day. My family shows up. They're so excited. The night before they came to my visitation, they're like, what do you want to eat? You want to go out to eat? All these things. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I want to go to a fucking Chinese buffet. That's the old me. I don't do buffets now, but I wanted to go to the Chinese buffet with my family. Go to court the next day, and we're all happy, and I'm happy. Then my attorney comes up to me and he says, hey, I lied to you. And I said, what? And he's like, well, I talked to the state, and you're going to have to sit here for about another month and a half. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? I can't sit here. I can't freak out. I'm here. I'm in shackles. I'm out. Okay. Month and a half. He goes out there and he tells my family. My family's like, what the fuck, you know? And I see my grandma starts crying, so I start crying because, again, disappointment. I'm so sorry that you are feeling this, to seeing your granddaughter, the child that you have raised as your own, and it was a horrible feeling. He walks away and he goes over and he talks to the people at home detention. Well, home detention will not take me back because it was an escape charge. You escaped from home detention. It's in the rule book. You're not allowed to go back. So then he comes back up to me and he said, hey, I apologize, but I lied again. And then I said, I was just like, the fuck, dude? Like, do we pay you to lie? Well, I had to serve that month and a half. And because I called a new charge, they were not going to be ran together. They were going to be ran separately. So as soon as that month and a half was done, then I had a 6-month sentence. It was a year. And I had to do 6 months. So a total of 7.5 months is what I had left to do. I just sat there, I put my head down, and tears, just the waterworks. My family was livid. My poor grandparents, my grandma was crying. They left. I just sat there and I was like, it's okay, go. They left. And then prison. I had 2 felonies. And at that time in Allen County Jail, they don't hold you there on felonies. You know, you have to go to prison. It's time for you to get a number. I remember always sitting there and, you know, being on the block with all these women. And after they get sentenced, they're like, they need to hurry up and get me. They need to come pick me up. They need to come ship me because I'm sick of being here. I want to go to prison. And in my mind, I'm like, why? Like, jail is so horrible, so prison's worse, right? Well, they come and trip. And they do this, they don't let you know when you're leaving. You have no idea when you are going to be taking that trip to prison because they don't want you to let your family know, you know? Again, you see the shit in the movies. People try to bust you out of the, you know, the paddy wagon, and then you're on the run. Come and they get you probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Hear your door pop, that's your time. Once you get to prison, you're not able to use the phone for a week. And you're only allowed to have 5 phone numbers that you put on a list. Those are the only numbers that you can call. So you need to make sure that you have them memorized, written down, something. When I tell you I was scared because, again, prison is worse than jail. And this was hell. I tripped to Rockville Women's Correctional Facility. This is a maximum security prison for women. Women are spending their entire lives behind these barbed wire fences. And we pull up. And again, I'm scared. I mean, my stomach's dropped to my ass. I feel like, just the sick feeling that I had. We walk in there and they hand you this brown paper bag. And I'm like, there's 4 pieces of bread. There's 2 thick ass pieces of bologna. There's mustard and ketchup packets. There's a fresh orange. They don't give you fresh shit in jail. Nothing the entire time. So I got this little orange, and then you have a Kool-Aid pack in a cup to where I could drink Kool-Aid. And I was like, to the point of tears. I'm like, all of this is for me. Mind you guys, I had lost so much weight in jail because, depression. There was a lot of things that happened on the outside when I was incarcerated, but that's for a whole nother story time. They looked at me like I was crazy, and they're like, yeah, like, eat your food. So I had 2 big, thick-ass bologna sandwich. I ate it all. I inhaled it. My stomach was so upset from eating all that food. But I ate it because of fresh orange. Are you kidding me? I got condiments. You don't get condiments either when you're in jail. They give you your banana. I was in yellow. Horrible color on me. But put you in your little banana suit. They give you shoes, all the things, and then they put you in dorms. They're like giant college dorms, except when you walk in, you've got a left side and you have a right side. And then it's A through Z. There's an upstairs and downstairs. What it is, I pictured this, maximum security prison. I'm picturing, going in and you've got like the steel doors and the, shutting behind you. No, what it was like a giant dog kennel. Every alphabet, you had A, like I said, A through Z, and you had about 16 to 24 women per alphabet per side. The whole right side had all those women too. The whole left side had all those women. When I walked into the dorm, I was not expecting to see all of that. You see these women walking around everywhere, but then you got me. You got my young gay ass looking like a young boy walking into prison, and all of a sudden there's these little notes, these little papers flying and hitting my feet, and the person next to me is like, step on that. And I'm like, what? I put my foot on it, and I'm like, what? Like, what is it? And she's like, well, they're kites. They're letters. People, they're writing you letters. And I'm like, the fuck? I got like 7 of them hitting my feet. Like, what do I do? So I'm sitting here and just hurrying, trying to pick them up. It was, all of them was just girls trying to get on. They saw some fresh meat walk up in there. I was like grade A prime fucking fresh meat, wagyu, if you will. And me, I'm still scared. I'm still scared. I'm just like, wait a minute, I don't know what to think, how to feel, what to do. Prison's a lot different when it comes to who it is that you're around. Like I said, there are women that are spending their entire lives at that prison. And there's this girl, I'll never forget her. Her name was Joanna. And she was just this itty bitty. I mean, she was probably 5 foot even. Just this pretty long hair, cutest girl. She comes up and she's just like, hey, like, this is from my sister. My sister's over on the other side. She wanted me to give this to you. It was one of those little letters. And she's like, oh, like, what are you here for? I was like, I just, escape, sounds a lot more hardcore than what it is, so saying it, I felt safe, I guess. And I'm like, what about you? Mind you, she's just this innocent, pretty little thing. And she was sentenced to 50 years. She's there for 25 years. Her boyfriend's niece was essayed by this man. And the man ended up getting off because of the wording. You have to use the word, penis or vagina. You can't say wiener and pee-pee, when it doesn't hold up in court. So this guy who did that got off. He didn't get in any kind of trouble. So they decided, we're going to go beat him up. It was her boyfriend and then her sister's boyfriend decided to go. The guys were going to go beat him up, and the girls were going to go right along with it, and ended up riding along, and they beat him up, but they beat him to death. That was not their intentions, but that's what happened. And what they ended up doing was dismembering the body and putting it in different places. What? And I'm sitting here and it's just like, you're right next to this girl she didn't do it herself, but she was an accomplice. And she got sentenced to 50 years, do 25. But that's the thing, it's just like, you're not around in jail, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, 99% of it is homeless prostitutes and, drug addicts. You're not around murderers. So that was definitely something for me to get used to. But again, thinking about how, oh my gosh, prison, such a scary place. That maximum security prison, Rockville Correctional Facility, was a day camp compared to Allen County Jail. I hadn't gotten fresh air in 4 months. The film that was on my skin when I got to prison, you get to go outside twice a day and walk around in a circle, walk, not run, not speed walk, not anything. Walk around in a circle for an hour, twice a day. What? I was like, oh my gosh. And even though you're in prison, it was a very beautiful place. The amount of butterflies and caterpillars and things that were everywhere because you're out in the middle of fucking nowhere. It was a very beautiful place for being such an ugly place. I had got so sunburnt from just walking around outside. When you get to prison, you got to go to the dentist. You got to go in, get to the gynecologist. You got to get a pelvic exam. You got to get a TB test, all of those things. And when I went in to get my pelvic exam, she realized how burnt I was. And she was like, I'm going to give you some lotion. You need to be careful with that because if you get too burnt, they will consider it self-harm. You will not be allowed to go outside. They could just go put you in solitary confinement because you're trying to harm yourself. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not. I'm just happy to get fresh air. You worked while you were there, whether you did laundry or cleaning the dorms. There were things that you had to do at the end of the night and throughout the day. You had rec room where there was a gym. You could play volleyball, you could play basketball, you could watch a movie, you could actually exercise with gym equipment. There were so many things that you could do there. And it started to make sense. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is why people wanted to come to prison. I remember the first time walking to the cafeteria, you got a pretty good distance to walk from where I was at. And we're walking, and then there's people who's an open population, these people who got done, with their intake, and they're out into the other dorms. They're able to buy commissary. They're able to, have new shoes and sweatpants and wear a different color and things like that. And they're walking past me again, me being fresh meat. I'm walking, just minding my business because, again, I'm so scared. And I'm walking, and all of a sudden they're walking past, and they're hitting my hand, and they're putting oatmeal cream pies. They're putting little instant coffee things in my hands. And I'm like, what the hell? If you get caught with that in prison, It's trafficking. It's a trafficking charge, and you can get your time added to that. So I'm like so scared. I'm like, oh my God, so I'm like trying to stuff it up into my bra and whatnot. Everybody everywhere finds a way to just have a good time. Try to get a little buzz, whatever, in any way that they can. Well, these people get very creative in prison. And I remember like Benadryl. Benadryl was something that in intake, we could order that on our like commissary. We just couldn't order food and stuff like that. So people would order Benadryl. And you take 2 or 3 Benadryls and you stay awake past that sleepy stage, woo, you are higher than a kite. I don't know if y'all knew that. I didn't know that till I went to prison. You don't get coffee or anything like that. Obviously, you don't get that in jail. You don't get it in intake, but these people are handing me coffee. So what we would do is we would sit there and I'd collect like 3, 4 of them. I had a couple of my friends, that I had tripped with that were on the same side of the dorm with me. And so we sit there, we get the hot water and put the coffee in there, but you can smell it. So what you have to do is chug this coffee. So then you get this caffeine rush. So you get like this do-do-do-do-do like kind of buzz. We would do it before we would go outside for rec, and whether we would sit down at a bench, listen to music, because you can get little headsets and stuff like that, listen to music. But those are ways that like people caught a buzz in jail. Just in intake was Benadryls and coffee. Fucking who would have thunk it? Not me. I had a girlfriend when I was in prison. Yes, I sure did. But you guys want to know something? That's for next time. Sorry. I'm sorry. I can't let these videos get too long, I can't let them get too long. I just wanted to let you know in this video how I wound up getting into prison. There are a lot more stories when it comes to prison, even when it comes to my prison girlfriend. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. And for those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Michelle. I'm your local lesbian, 2-time felon. Obviously, you just learned that in this video. There's going to be a lot more awesome story times when it comes to all of this. Again, I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing these things with you because I want to let people know, yes, I'm a 2-time felon. Yes, I've done a lot of fucking up, but look where I am now. Our past does not define who we are as people, and we can change and we can improve. Don't let people label you as a felon and a failure, because it's just not how it fucking works. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I really appreciate it. I love all of you, and tune in next time, next week. Who knows? Maybe even later this week. I really like talking about this kind of stuff and sharing it with you guys. But the next video is going to be coming out here fairly soon, and I'll let you know all about the juicy, intimate details of prison relationships and fights. There's a lot of girl fights too, so I'll let you guys know. Thanks for tuning in. Have the day you deserve.